Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for those very heartwarming songs you just rendered to us. Good morning, everyone. Today is the second day in the month of March. This is a very special month for some of us, and we give God the glory. We've gone 3 months just like that. So I'm very excited. I'm really very excited at what we have started yesterday throughout the month of January and February. We're looking at the Power series. Power series is it's been a hit. I still have it on my desk here. But we started the book of Ezra yesterday, just to prepare our hearts yesterday. And today we're looking at just chapter 1 today. Ezra has about 10 chapters. Yeah. So if we do one chapter per day, we'll probably finish it in 10 days. But that is not the story. This morning, it is my desire to plant something in you that is truly and really going to help you. So if there's somebody that is missing today that you need to remind to come, this is it. The way we start chapter 1 will determine how we're going to go the rest. And today I'll be talking about God's sovereignty, the sovereignty of God, beyond the prayers that we pray, beyond the desires that you have, beyond my desire. God himself has a way that he does things, and the ways of God ultimately, it trumps everything that we have. And I'm going to be showing you today from the Bible how God walks through anybody, anything, any situation. And the whole idea is to encourage all of us. No matter what you are going through today, no matter where I am today, no matter where we want to be tomorrow, this chapter 1 is going to help all of us. And I pray that by the time we are done, every one of us here will have bounce in their step. You'll be able to lift up your face up to God and know that God is really with you. Chapter 1 is very short. It's a very short chapter. But today I'm going to be tapping into one of the most powerful method of passing messages. One of the most powerful method of passing message. And that is the method of storytelling. So I'm going to be telling you stories today, especially one particular story that's going to help you pull all of these things together. But before I read chapter 1 of Ezra, which is very small, I would like to remind you how we ended December. Okay, how did we end the book of Chronicles? I'm going to take you back to the that chapter in Chronicles, Second Chronicles chapter 36. I'm just going to read from verse 5 to 23. And I want you to listen to those names, because those names are going to be re-echoing again as we read the book of Ezra. Now, interestingly, after reading Chronicles, we are normally supposed to jump to Daniel, right? We're supposed to jump to Daniel because Daniel happened in the time of Babylon. But right now, we're not even talking about Babylon. We are going all the way to the time of the Persians. Remember in the history, it was Assyria that took the northern kingdom and the 10 tribes, and they scattered them everywhere, and they never came back. Then Babylonian Empire trumped the kingdom of that kingdom, and it became the war power. And all through the book of Daniel, you will see all those stories happen. But we're going to jump the time of the Babylonians at this time. Then we're going to go to Persia. There is a reason, for doing that. In chapter 5, remember those names again. We're going to go back to them. In verse 5 of chapter 36 of Second Chronicles, that will say Joachim. You're going to be hearing a name like that, Kim and Chim. Joachim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. That's actually short. We are going to see a shorter one. I'm just reminding you of what we read in December. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, his God. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. You see, when Nebuchadnezzar comes in here, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, attacked him and bound him with bronze shackles. He now took him to Babylon. So that's how, can you imagine taking a king, bound him and took him to Babylon? So what did Nebuchadnezzar do? He has not destroyed Jerusalem. Nebuchadnezzar also took unto Babylon the articles of the temple of the Lord and put them in his temple. So he took the king and he took his article. That is very significant. When you conquer a country, you take their leader. Look at what is happening right now in Persia. Where is Persia? Iran. Iran is Persia. Okay, so they've killed their king yesterday. The king, this supreme leader, the Ayatollah. Have been killed. So you kill the king, you take the king, then you take the articles in the temple. In other words, you are signifying that you've taken their political power and you've taken their religious power. So you can take political power, but how do you take religious power? So in those days, they will gather the articles of the temple, just like the what they call them, the Philistines, they Aknab, they took the ark of the Lord. So when you conquer people, you take the most valuable article, spiritual article. So they took the articles from the temple of the Lord and they put them in his own temple. Now, the Bible said the other events of Joachim's reign, the detestable things that he did, and all that was found against him are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. And Joachim, his son succeeded. So there's Joachim and Joachim. Now, what did this Joachim do? So his father was taken to Babylon. All the golden articles and silver of the temple was taken, but his son, they left. They've not really come after them in full force. So his son was just 18 years old, became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months and 10 days. 3 months and 10 days. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. In the spring, King Nebuchadnezzar, they called him, small boy, come. He sent for him and brought him to Babylon, together with the articles of value from the temple of the Lord, and he made Joachim's uncle, that his father's brother, Zedekiah, king over Judah and Jerusalem. So let's see what Zedekiah will do. Remember, Joachim ruled for 11 years. Guess what? Zedekiah was just 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years also. Now, of course, he was prideful. He shouldn't be king. So he did evil in the eyes of the Lord and did not humble himself before Jeremiah the prophet. Remember Jeremiah? We're going to come to him very soon. And who spoke the word of the Lord to him? He also rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar, who made him king. Nebuchadnezzar, who has taken an oath. He made him take an oath in the name of his God, not to rebel, but he rebelled. He became stiff-necked and he hardened his heart and would not turn. I will not turn to the Lord, his God of Israel. Furthermore, all the leaders and the priests and people became more and more unfaithful, following all the detestable practices of the nations and defiling the temple of the Lord, which he has consecrated in Jerusalem. So how did this thing end? Jerusalem fell. That was when Jerusalem fell. Then the Lord, the God of the ancestors, sent word to them through his messengers again and again. We're going to be reading for some of those messengers. He sent prophets again and again. Why? Because he had pity on the people and the dwelling place. God still had compassion on the people. Not everybody is guilty. In the country, there are some people who are still innocent. Then he also had compassion on the place, Jerusalem. He had promised David, but they mocked God's messengers, despised his words, and he scoffed at the prophet until the wrath of the Lord has arose against the people, and there is no remedy. There is a time that God will just say, I've had it. So what did he do? So he brought up against them the king of Babylon, who killed their young men with the sword in the sanctuary and did not spare young men, young women, the elderly, or the infirm. God gave them all into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar. He carried to Babylon all the articles from the temple of the Lord. This is like complete ransacking, both large and small, and the treasures of the Lord's temple and the treasures of the king and his officials. They set fire to God's temple. This is the abomination that causes dissolution. This is the dissolution. They set fire on God's temple and broke down the walls of Jerusalem. So by the time you are reading Ezra, when Ezra is coming to rebuild, and Nehemiah, you are going to see this is where everything, this is the ground zero. So they broke down the walls of Jerusalem. They burned down everything. Bible said they burned all the palaces and destroyed everything of value there. Everything was destroyed. Like what is happening in Persia right now. The bombing, everything will be leveled. So he carried into exile to Babylon the remnants, just the remaining. What remnants? Remember people like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So he carried to Babylon the remnant who escaped from the sword, and they became what? They became servants to him. That Nebuchadnezzar, they became servants to him, to his successors until the king of Persia came to power. So you can see many years until they were all serving the kings of Babylon, until the king of Persia came to power. Bible says that the land enjoyed a Sabbath rest. What are Sabbath rest? 70. Remember 7? And I'm going to talk to you about that one. The land enjoyed a Sabbath rest all the time of its dissolution. He rested until the 70 years that were completed in fulfillment of the word of the Lord spoken by who? Jeremiah. And so that's what the word of the Lord spoke by Jeremiah. Bible said, this is still Chronicles we're still reading right now. It said, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia. I mean, many kings have passed. This is another kingdom. The Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord moved, or the Lord stirred the heart of Cyrus, king of Persia, to make a proclamation throughout the realm and also to put it in writing. He didn't just say it, he put it in writing. This is what Cyrus, the king of Persia, says. Cyrus wrote down, and this is a very interesting man. Will you believe that over 125 years before this Ezra, Cyrus was first mentioned in the Bible by the prophet Isaiah. Even before Israel fell, even before whatever, he mentioned it by name. And Cyrus is the only person in the Bible that they use the word Messiah. God said, I'm going to make him my signet ring. And God, this is an unbeliever. So this will tell you there is nobody that God cannot use. Look at what Cyrus said. Say, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him. Cyrus said that God of heaven told him to build a temple for him in Jerusalem, in Judah. This is an unbeliever. He said, any of his people among you may go up. Who may go up? May the Lord, your God, be with you. So that is 2 Chronicles. A king came, Jeremiah prophesied that they're going to spend 70 years, and at the right time, and I'm telling you this, at the right time for me, we say God's time is the best. There are two words in Greek, for time. One is chronos, the other one is kairos. Chronos is chronometer. You measure chronos by second, by minutes, by hour. That is how we measure our time. And right now, it is just 25 minutes past the hour of 5. But there's another time where we say God's time. That one is kairos. God's time is God's moment, God's providence. God will choose the right moment. He will choose the right person. He will choose a situation to meet your need. God's time is the best. Now, listen to what Jeremiah says in Jeremiah 29. Listen, Jeremiah was also taken to exile. Okay, if you look at the story well, Jeremiah too was also taken to exile. But when the king of Babylon heard everything, that this man is actually the one prophesying they're going to. In fact, they thought Jeremiah was working for the king of Babylon. Then the king sent him back to Jerusalem. Now he wrote a sad, letter called Lamentation. But before he wrote Lamentation, listen to what he wrote in Jeremiah 29 in verse 1. He said, "This is the text of the letter that the prophet Jeremiah sent to Jerusalem." To the surviving elders. He sent to Jerusalem, to the surviving elders among the exiles, and the priests, and the prophet, and all the people Nebuchadnezzar has carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. He actually wrote them a particular letter. When you go to exile, what do? You're going to be planning to escape. You're going to be planning to insurgency. You're going to be planning to cause trouble. Look at what Jeremiah said. This is what this was King Joachim. And the queen mother and the court official, all of them were taken. He entrusted the letter to Elisha, son of Shaphiah, and the Gemanite, son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah, king of Judah, sent to King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. It says, "This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile." Not Nebuchadnezzar carried them. It was I. They went the first wave, they went the second wave, and the third wave. So he sent letter to those people who have won, the first wave. He said, "This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon." Look at what God said. God said, "Build houses and settle down. Plant garden and eat what they produce." He said, "Marry Have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there, do not decrease. Also, seek the peace and prosperity of the city which I have carried you into exile. God said, pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, then you too will prosper. Yes, this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Do not let the prophets and diviner amongst you deceive you. Do not listen to the dreams and encourage them to have. He said, they are prophesying lies to you in the name. I have not sent them, declares the Lord. This is what the Lord says. When 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and I'll fulfill my good promise to bring you back to this place. For I know that is the part that we memorize, everybody wants to talk about, but this is where God used that part. God said, go there. 70 years, yes, you're under captivity. Don't worry. I'm going to come for you. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Then, when this happens, then you will call on me and come to pray to me. You are going to come to pray to me and I will listen. You will seek me and you will find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back from captivity. I will gather you from all the nations and places where I have banished you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back to the place from which I carried you into exile. Can you imagine the promise that God has given them? Say, go there, prosper, don't rebel. Don't rebel. You're going to do well. So you can, with all of this right now, you can now begin to understand what Ezra that talks about. So Ezra started up from where Chronicles stopped, and from where Jeremiah prophesied. So Ezra chapter 1 verse 1 starts like this. And this is a story of the providence of God. In the first year, you know how president become president, and this, what do they do? Either to abolish petrol scarcity or petrol subsidy or to whatever. But this is what Cyrus did, king of Persia. In the first year that he came in order to fulfill the word that the Lord spoke to Jeremiah. Jeremiah was dead, long gone. 70 years had passed. The Lord moved the heart of Cyrus, king of Persia. God can move the heart of anybody, not just disciples, not just people who believe in him. God can move anyone. Who knows? Maybe what is happening in the world today, think about it. If America is not intervening in Nigeria, how Boko Haram will have ravaged everywhere. Think about what is happening. You might hate Donald Trump. You might say anybody about it. But what if God has planted these people for the right time, using them in their own? Donald Trump is not the most civil human being. He doesn't talk like anybody. But Donald Trump has made Christianity to flourish in America. He had made the calling of the name of God to God. He's not a righteous man. We all know. But how can God use somebody who is so unrighteous? You are going to know this from the story of Cyrus at this time. The Bible said that God moved the heart of Cyrus, king of Persia, to make a proclamation throughout the realm, not just throughout Persia. God, this is the very first world power. Yes, Iran, today, that is a seat where they conquer the whole world. He made throughout the realm, he put it in writing. This is what Cyrus, king of Persia, says. But he said, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and has appointed me to build a temple for him in Jerusalem, in Judah. Any of these people, that's the Israelites, who are still amongst you, we may go to Jerusalem and Judah and build the temple of the Lord, the God of Israel, the God who is in Jerusalem specifically, the God who is in Jerusalem, and may their God be with them. And in any locality, it made it clear, and in any locality where survivors may not be living, that is their brothers, sisters, people are to provide them with silver and gold, with goods and livestock, and with free will offering for the temple of the God in Jerusalem. Now, does this not sound similar to what happened in Egypt? When they were living, he said, go and ask people for anything that you need, and they will give you. Then the family heads of Judah and Benjamin, those were the two major tribes, apart from the Levitical tribe, the family head of Benjamin and Judah, and the priests and Levites, everyone whose heart God has moved. And I pray that God will move your heart this morning, even to possibilities. God can do anything. There is nothing he cannot do. There is nobody you cannot use. You might be looking for your deliverance from here, but God might plan your deliverance from somewhere you never know. You might be saving up no money for something big, and God is saying you are going to get it free. And we're like, God, because the way we think is not the way God the same thing. God will say, anybody that God has moved to prepare to go and build the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, all their neighbors, in verse 6, assisted them with articles of silver and gold, with goods and livestock, and with valuable gifts, in addition to all the freewill offering. Moreover, from the king's own power, the King Cyrus brought out the articles belong to the temple of the Lord. Which article? The one Nebuchadnezzar had carried away from Jerusalem and had placed in the temple of his God. God preserves his honor, and God is able to preserve your honor. You have not lost anything. God is only waiting for the right time. So Cyrus, king of Persia, had them brought the Mishra, the treasurer, who counted them. He counted every one of them out. Not one is missing. And he gave it to Shishbishar. Now, the remnants, because God allowed. You might think, oh, they carried our king. But if you read towards the end of Chronicles, that king was brought out and he ate on the table of the king of Babylon all his life. Again, all his life, he ate there because God wants to preserve a remnant for himself. So right now, it was now Shishbishar, the king, the prince of Judah. This was the inventory. Gold dishes, 30. Silver dishes, 1,000. Silver pans, 29. Gold bowls, 30. Then matching silver bowls, 404. All the articles, and then other articles that were there, maybe bronze or anything, was 1,000. In all, there were 5,400 articles of gold and silver. Shishbishar brought all of this along with the exile, and they came up to Babylon, to Jerusalem. That is how chapter 1 ends. But this is a story behind every single thing. Remember in Psalm 137, look at how their story began when they were singing by the rivers of Babylon, where we sat. There we wept when we remember Zion. He said, how can I forget Zion? Can my hand, forget my skill? He said, if my tongue, they were crying, they were weeping. Maybe that is where some of us are today. You see, and all for 70 years, all they were hearing are just stories from their grandfather. Because some people who lived there as children, as young men, they also came. They were now in their 90s. Maybe 100, they were telling the stories, and all you have is stories. And you are saying, will things ever get better in your life? Will things ever get better in the country? Will things ever get better in your society? Will things ever get better in your family? All you heard was stories of the past. But God is never silent, even when he's still. For the fact that God is still, he's never silent. So the central tension in Ezra Chapter 1 here, it's not will the Persians let us go? You know what they're saying? Oh, 70 years have come, will they let us go? That's not it. But this real question, the real tension is when God finally moves, will his people be too comfortable in Babylon to notice? So how do you notice when things have changed? When God opens doors for you, will you see it? So today, as we explore this mystery, God said he stirred the heart of the king. The king also said, anybody that God has moved his own heart, let us go and do all of these things. So, and that's why in the first year, King Cyrus made this decree. And today we still have those things in what they call the Cyrus cylinder. You can go and Google it. Cyrus cylinder, has all of those things. There was a prophetic connection. 150 years earlier, Isaiah had called Cyrus by name. And let me show you what Isaiah said about Cyrus. Isaiah has wrote 150 years before. Isaiah wrote, this is what the Lord says to his anointed Cyrus. So Isaiah prophesied for Cyrus. Even before Cyrus was born, even before Babylon came, even before the Israelites went to captivity. But when Isaiah was saying this, people were like, what is he talking about? He called him the anointed one. He called him Messiah. He said, whose right hand I have grasped. God said, I have grasped to subdue nations before him, as I strip kings of their armor to open doors before him, and gates that cannot be closed. I myself, the Bible says, I myself will go before you. God said, I'm going to go before you. Before your calamity happens, God has already gone. God knows what I'm going to be tomorrow. God knows what I'm going to be next 10 years. God has seen my end. God has seen my prosperity. God has seen my challenges. God sees the beginning from the end. God has gone. God said, I will go before you, and he, Cyrus, will make the mountains level. I will shatter bronze doors and cut through the bars. I will give you concealed treasure. What treasure? The treasures that were hidden. Babylon has not even come up now. I will give you concealed treasure and riches hidden in secret places, so that you will know that it is I, the Lord, the God of Israel, who calls you by name. For the sake of Jacob, my servant Israel, my chosen one, I have called you, and he has established you with a name. Although you have not acknowledged me, I am the Lord, and there is no other than me, and there is no gods. I am strengthening you, although you have not acknowledged me, so that from the sun's rising to the west, people may know that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. So you can see sovereign the submission of God. Then in verse 7 he said, I form light and I create darkness. God can do anything he wants to do, and it will still be right. He said, I form light and I create darkness. I make goodness and I create disaster. I am the Lord who does all things. So when we think, what can't God do? We think, oh, God does what we consider good. Oh, God bless us. God will say God can bring disaster. God can do anything. In the book of Revelation, the Bible said that just God said, I walk among the lampstands. I will fight against you. My church, his church. I'm going to come and fight against you with the words of my mouth. I'm going to take away your lampstand. There is nothing. God can depose kingdoms. God can set up kings where there are no king. God can arrange things. God move things around. Doesn't matter your prayer. It doesn't matter your belief. God is there and is merciful. Our God is the master architect of history. God arranges things. It is God that used even the wickedness of the brothers of Joseph to get Joseph to where he wanted him to be. It was the same God who used the house of Pharaoh to incubate the one that will come and destroy them. Moses grew up in the house of Pharaoh for 40 years. There is nothing God cannot do. When I get to this point, man, I have to just acclaim that I declare that my God is sovereign. You tell yourself, my God is sovereign. God can do anything he wants. God can take me from step 1 to step 10. You don't have to go through step 2, 3, 4, 5. The plan is here. God can turn your disaster into something valuable. So I declare today that my God is a sovereign Lord over all kings, over all nations. My God is working up opportunities for my glory, and I will trust in his timing over my circumstances. Right now, things might not be looking very good for you. Things might be looking good for me, but God is there. God is not silent. God is planning. God's time is the best. And that is why in verse 4, Ezra said, moreover, King Cyrus brought out the article at the right time. At the right time, King Cyrus will bring out the article. God is going to move in every single way. Now, how did all of these things come together? And this is where I'm going to end. So we have the king of Babylon. Before that time, there were actually 4 kingdoms. There were 4 kingdoms that were coming on. There was Egypt. There was the kingdom of Lydia. If you've read Chronicles before, if you saw Chronicles was the most richest man in the whole world at that point, richest man. And that was where the story of the Midas touch. Anything he touches turns to gold. And before you know it, he touched his daughter, turned to gold. He touched himself, he turned to gold. So that was the story they wrote, the legend around him. So there was Egypt, there was the kingdom of Lydia, which is now Minor, Asia Minor, and then which is Turkey. I had this story elaborate way when I went to Turkey, the last time I went to Turkey. Then there is Babylon, which is Baghdad. Okay, Babylon, which is Iraq, and there was Media, which is not, the other part of Iran. But this is where God now comes in. So there was this kingdom. This was the strong kingdom. Now, Media had a king. And the king's name is Astyages, or Astyages. It's spelled Astyag, like Astyages, but they call it Astyages. So King Astyages was a Median. All right, he was a Median, and he had power. And of course, they looked down on other kingdoms, especially the Persians. The Persians were just coming up. They looked down on them. So once upon a time, the king had a dream. The king, and this story, was written down to us by Herodotus. Herodotus was a Greek, historian. He wrote down this story that once upon a time, this king had a dream, and in his dream, he saw his daughter urinating. And those days, they normally talk about dreams. Think about the dream of Pharaoh, the dreams of King of Babylonia, Nebuchadnezzar. So kings, and God can speak to you even through dreams, even today. God can speak to you, through dreams. But this guy had a dream. He bothered him. He said, "What does this dream mean?" He said, "Well, that means that something is going to come out of your child, and that's the only child he has." Okay, he had that dream again. There was a vine that was growing out from the child, and the branch spread and covered everywhere. And he asked his wise men, "What does this mean?" He said, "That means that what is going to come out from your daughter will topple your kingdom." Really? Will topple your kingdom. So that means that my daughter will have a child that's going to topple my kingdom. To make sure that never happens. And that is where the wisdom of man comes in. To make sure that never happened, Astyages married his daughter to a Persian, to a commoner. Okay, don't mind, because unless you are of royal blood, you can never become king. So he married his daughter to a Persian. So whatever child is going to have can never come. So that is how he wants to kill that prophecy. But the truth is this: the more you plan evil to thwart the plan of God, the more that plan, God uses that plan to carry out what he wants to do. So the daughter now had a son. So I was like, wait a minute, he had a son. To make sure that this prophecy is really done. So he now called his servant, Harpagus. That's his name, as in Harpagus, Harpagus. He called his trusted servant, a soldier. He said, "Go and get that boy and go and kill that boy." So, but don't kill it though. So they have to go and kidnap the boy. Take the boy. Don't let the mother know what you're doing. Take the boy, take him in the forest and go and kill the boy. And that is exactly what they did. So when Harpagus, they wrapped the boy in purple linen, and as he was going, he was looking, the boy was crying. He was like, his heart was moved. How can I kill this boy? How can I kill whatever they? And he was going, he now saw a Persian old man in the forest. And of course, the myths were the one that were powerful. He now said, "Come here." He ordered him. And I said, "Take this boy and go and kill this boy." And the man was like, "Why is this boy wrapped in purple? Purple is one of the most expensive, dyes in the world." Why did you like? He said, "Because it is the king's grandson. But I'm giving you a command, go and kill that boy." And so the guy said, "Okay, I'm going to go and kill him." What if I told you now that this old man and his wife have been looking for a child for years, and his wife was pregnant, and that same day the wife gave birth, and gave birth to a stillbirth that same day? And the old man was more like, maybe the gods have blessed them with a child. So he swapped the child. So the neighbors didn't even know that the baby was there. So the brother said, the gods have blessed us. And that was how they began to raise this king's grandson in their own house. So time went on. He was now a teenager. All right, he was now a teenager, or a preteen. He was now a preteen, and he was not playing. You know how people play? It was okay. Let's do thief and robber. Let us do thief and robber. Let us play king. And so he played the king. He now commanded one other guy to bow down, to him. And it was a mead. They were all playing together. It was like, "Listen, me bow down to you. Meats are the Lord's. Meats don't bow down to any passion." So he struck the boy, and as we believe it, that the boy he struck was a senator's son. Was an important official, and the news went round the whole empire that, can you believe that a Persian commoner went to go and strike the son of a mid official, and the king ordered that boy must die. So they brought the boy into the king. I said, "I'm going to show him as an example to every Persian here." And as the boy walked into the king's palace, something that happens in Indian film happened. The boy looked at the king. The king looked at the boy. And the king told the guy to, can you please turn around, show me your profile photo? And he whatever. I said, I called the official, come. How come that this Persian looks like me? You know how you see a Fulani, you know, or an Igbo, you know, whatever. How come he looks this? You say this guy's a Persian. Say, yeah, how come he look like that? He now called his royal advisor. Can you please explain what's going on to me? And he said, oh my Lord, what actually happened was that I don't know. Whatever. They say, go and call the father of this boy. So now call the father of this boy. And the father said, actually, this child was given to me by this your servant there, like over 10 years ago. Really? He gave it to me. So the king said, so this is my grandchild. So what did he do? He now took the child, sent him to his mom, rented with mom. I now called this, Apados guy. He said, you have his child, the same age, right? Oh, bring your child over. Let us have dinner. Let's celebrate. Oh, send him ahead. So he sent his son ahead. By the time he got there, the table was full. There was so much food, and they were eating the shish kebab. They were eating the asun. They were eating the whatever. After I finished eating, the king asked, Hapago, so how do you enjoy your meal? He said, it was very delicious, my king. Unknown to him, it was his son that the king cooked and gave to him. He said, this will teach you a lesson that you never disobey me again. So you are going to pay with the life of your son. Of course, Dana began to now grow some hatred from this Hapagos guy towards the king. Many years afterwards, this guy Hapagos wrote a letter, put it in a dead hair, a rabbit, and sent it to this young boy who is now in Persia, asking him to come and attack the king. And he asked him to come and attack. So when they were coming, the fear of the Persians now overshadowed, because everybody is hating the king, and even the Medes turn against their king, just like it's happening right now in Persia, right now in Iran. They turn against, and that is how this guy, in one day, without a fight, he conquered the Medes. And because he was half Mede and half Persian, he was the one that united the kingdom, and that is what we now know as the Medo-Persian kingdom. And what is the name of that boy? His name is Cyrus the Great. Cyrus the Great. You see how God has used every single thing, and how God brought every single thing together. God's time is the best for you. God is going to use people that I do not know. God is going to use people that I do not expect. God is going to turn my situation around, going to turn your situation around. So you need to pray. When you pray broadly, but open your eyes to possibilities. It is not when God moves in my situation. The question should be, when God moves, will I see it? When God opens doors, will I see it? And I want you to hold on to this message today. Let it be the very, very, very important message as we dive into this book of Ezra. And that is, God stares the return. God stares. Those who will return, God will stare them. It's about restoration, and how restoration begins when God steers the heart of people to respond to his call. Is God stirring your heart today? The call to action is for all of us to ask God to stir our hearts for the purpose today. God, please stir my heart. God, please point me to where you want me to be. Help me to open my eyes to see possibilities you've laid out of me. Maybe I've closed my eyes. I've been blind to them. Help me to see the things that you have made, and help me to believe without prejudice that you're walking in my, in your capacity for my own good. Maybe you've closed your eyes. God is trying to bless you, but you're saying, no, it cannot be from here, or it cannot be from there, whatever there. Do you know? Maybe your 70 years is over. And as we talk today, as we share, as we pray, I want this to begin to swell in your hearts and begin to help you to understand the power, the majesty, and the sovereignty that our God holds. Now, I'm going to stop here. I can do this all day, but I'm going to stop here. But what has God stirred in your heart today? If you want to share, this is where we begin to put up your hand. What have you learned? What are you going to do? Have you learned anything new? Has God stirred your heart? Are you able to plug this story, this powerful story, into your own situation? And this is where we open up the lines. We have about 10 minutes, to do that. If you want to share, we'll open up the opportunity for you to do right now. But afterwards, they were going to pray.